should start to see and feel those impacts.
Absolutely, and the interesting thing to keep in mind is some of the impacts are going to come well before the landfall, so be prepared early and don't wait till the last minute. Now, currently we have a 70-mile-per-hour storm bearing down on the coast, probably less than 24 hours away, and very close to hurricane strength. The hurricane hunters are flying around out there right now. Found a pressure of 988 millibars, but not quite the strong enough winds to make it a hurricane yet, but it's still got a little time before it gets to the coast. Okay, let's look at it in a little different way. Let's go to the radar imagery, and you can see circulation center there, and now another little hook forming right on the western side. That's the center of circulation moving in the general direction of the Mexico-U.S. border over the next 18 to 20 hours or so. You can see some of the rain bands coming in. So far, the rain has really been dying away as it's come to the coast so far, which is good news, although you need some of the rain, but we don't want flooding rains. All right, let's look at some of the projected path, and based on this path and the fact that we think it's going to become a Category 1 hurricane by the time it makes landfall, the following impacts do we expect to happen along the coastline. First of all, let's look at wind. In general, we expect some power outages, very likely in the Brownsville area, northern Mexico area. Up the coast a ways, we could see some possibility for scattered power outages in the Corpus Christi area if the system happens to move just a little farther to the north. But for the most part, it's going to be down in South Texas for the power outages. Very poorly built barns and poorly built structures could topple over if they're not tied down, but in general, well-built structures we don't expect too much problems from. Rainfall is going to be a problem, and we do expect some flood potential in the greater Brownsville area up the coast a little ways, and then some isolated potential for flooding rains up toward the Corpus Christi area and Rockport area and inland as well, and that's associated with very brief periods of heavy rain. The biggest threat for flash flooding goes over the mountains of Mexico the next 36 hours as this system comes up and then turns back toward the west-southwest. So South Texas, northern Mexico, flood potential high. Watch out for flooding rains if you live in low-lying areas. All right, let's go to the coast now. What do we expect? Water rise? 3 or 4 feet along the South Texas coast, North Mexico coast, up to 1 to 3 feet in the Central Texas coast, and a foot or less generally in the Galveston area. But superimposed on that, we're going to have some high surf. That highest wave action is going to be in the right front quadrant of the circulation, and it's going to be down here in South Texas near Brownsville. This is down near the Barrier Islands down here, and it's going to be on the order of 15 to 18 feet, dropping to 10 to 15 feet farther north, and as you come up the coast, 4 to 7 feet, maybe a few 8-footers up there toward Galveston. So the high surf and the highest surge and the heaviest rain, South Texas, the next 24 to 30 hours or so. So those are the primary impacts we expect from it. Now, if you're heading on a vacation, the rest of the tropical Atlantic pretty quiet. We have one low pressure center that's come off the African coast we're monitoring here, but we're in pretty good shape other than Dolly in the Atlantic. In the eastern Pacific, you're heading on a vacation there. We do have Tropical Storm Genevieve. It's well offshore, and it's taken most of the rain with it. The impacts to land we expect to be relatively small. So that's the latest on Dolly. We'll have some more.
Devastating flooding. We'll have the latest on the track of Dolly and the impacts in South Texas coming up on PM Edition.
Another batch of severe weather is firing up today from the mid-Atlantic into the southeast.
And while the stifling heat wave continues across portions of the Northeast, we're tracking a system that will knock those temperatures back to average.
But any minute now, we are expecting new information on Tropical Storm Dolly. Meantime, Texas is taking no chances. Hello and welcome to PM Edition. I'm Samantha Moore.
And I'm Betty Davis. Thanks so much for joining us. Word this hour that the state of Texas has mobilized the National Guard as coastal residents prepare for the potential hurricane. Let's get the very latest. Of course, we are waiting for a new update to come down from the National Hurricane Center. What we can tell you is that the hurricane hunters continue to investigate this system. Just minutes ago, we learned that the pressure had dropped by a couple of millibars, so that is a sign of some intensification. Now, beyond that, we're waiting to see if those winds are going to be bumped up to 74 miles an hour, which would make Tropical Storm Dolly a minimal hurricane. The latest we do have on the map shows Dolly with those maximum sustained winds at 70 miles an hour, moving northwest at 10 miles an hour. It is nearing the coast here of South Texas and poised to make that landfall as we move into tomorrow, maybe mid-morning, mid-afternoon. We'll be watching this one come into view or make that landfall here right around South Texas in that border with Mexico. So Brownsville, you are in the path of this. As far north as Kingsville, we're concerned about the potential for where exactly this comes in. Now, as far as the watches and warnings we've got posted along the coast and who's included in those, we do have hurricane warnings posted. We mentioned that there may be just enough time for this to strengthen to a minimal hurricane. Thus, we do have those hurricane warnings taking us from the Mexican border back up toward the north, toward Brownsville and Corpus Christi, Texas, too. Some tropical storm watches as well, warnings rather, as we look from Corpus Christi northward. Now, the bottom line to this system, let's get you those details as we get Adam to bring over the very latest on this system that is just coming in. The outer fringes are now starting to arrive onshore with this system. Conditions will deteriorate tonight and early Wednesday, preceding the center's arrival on coast, and landfall is expected Wednesday, not far from the U.S.-Mexico border. And the latest from the National Hurricane Center, Dolly is now a hurricane, the second of the 2008 hurricane season. Maximum sustained winds now near 75 miles an hour. Samantha?
Thank you so much, Betty. And, of course, we do have hurricane warnings up for the Texas coast as well as the Mexico coast. And nearby, right in the midst of it all in Brownsville, is Mike Bettis. And, Mike, how are people preparing for this evening?
Well, certainly they are watching here, Samantha, for what could be a really devastating blow for Brownsville. Why? Well, because it's so flat and flooding is always a problem. This has been ongoing throughout the day. They've been filling sandbags, literally thousands of them, and handing out thousands of sandbags today. They started early this morning. Guys have been working hard here with the county. And really what you do is you come in, you pull your car, your truck right up. The full sandbags here are deposited over here in this warehouse, and it's now empty. These were literally stacked to the ceiling earlier today, but so many people have come up, literally lines around the block to get sandbags. You pull in, the guys load them in, sandbags are free. If you're a single person, single family, you get 6 sandbags. If you're 2 families, you get 12 sandbags, and hopefully that's enough that you can put along your doorways. Maybe if you have low windows, you can put them there and hold back some water, because flooding is certainly a huge concern here in Brownsville, especially watching where the center of Dolly may go, especially if it takes more of a southerly track, because we've got generally a westerly and northerly loaded storm with rain. What that could mean is heavy amounts of rain, copious amounts of rain for Brownsville, and that really is their biggest fear right now. It's not necessarily winds, because they think they can handle the winds. It's the flooding, because it's so flat here and it just does not drain. That's really paramount, the concern here, especially in Cameron County. Well, let's talk specifically about Brownsville and what we think may come our way here within the next 24 hours. We certainly are anticipating hurricane winds that could gust a 75 plus here in Brownsville. Also watching, as I was alluding to some serious rain. We could potentially get a half a foot to a foot. Isolated areas may see more than that. And then an isolated tornado threat tomorrow as well, with these bands that swing through. That's something to watch for. And again, the farther away you get from the center of the hurricane, the less likely you are to see that heavy rain. But we think that here in Brownsville, in South Padre, and in really northern Mexico, that's where we're likely to see the heaviest rain here, Samantha. So it's going to be a very difficult go, we think, for the next 24 hours. And as you can see, a lot of work has been going on here. They're going to shut this operation down at 4:30 this afternoon to give these guys some breaks. But again, flooding, the biggest thing will follow as Dolly approaches here in South Texas.
Okay, Mike, thank you very much. Flooding is a major concern, so do appreciate it. And we are also coping with severe